Welcome to Meet Me in the Penthouse. I am Amy, along here with my sister Molly. We help high-achieving women increase their income, but most importantly, their impact. We are neighbors, sisters, and business partners. We have built 8-figure businesses together, traveled the world together, raised our children together, mentored thousands of men and women together, and it's all because we have a penthouse mindset. We aim for the top, and we show others how to empower themselves to peel back the layers and truly step into their greatness and calling. Welcome to Meet Me in the Penthouse. Welcome to Meet Me in the Penthouse. My name is Amy Mosser, along with my sister Molly Croker. We help high-achieving women not only increase their income, but most importantly, their impact. And we have the most incredible woman here today with us from our hometown in Lincoln, Nebraska, Dr. Jennifer Churchill. And Molly and Jennifer had the best story on how they met. So Molly, I'll let you take it away. And I just can't wait to have everybody meet this fabulous woman.
I know. I'm so excited because I remember, Jennifer, meeting you after, of course, where do I meet everyone? But at a fitness studio at our dear friend, Dr. Jenny Brooding Brown, who we've had on our podcast. If you haven't listened to that one, it is so good. But Jenny introduced us and at Fly, and you had known each other growing up. You were back here from Minnesota. And now I love it because you live between Lincoln and your home, your beautiful home in Minnesota. And I'm just excited for people to hear from you because I remember meeting you being so impressed with your background, obviously having a PhD in psychology. And at that time, I feel like you were ahead of the trend, really not practicing your typical psychology, but really going into coaching high level corporate. So if you want to kind of walk us through that, how you started there, how you pivoted from, and where did you start? Because I always think, gosh, if somebody could be listening, that's like, gosh, that's where I am too. I want to get out of the therapy world and get into more of this world that you've done. And now you've pivoted again, and we'll talk about that. So just take us back there and what made you just change direction?
Yeah, well, you both will appreciate this part of the story. And I don't know, Molly, if I've ever shared this with you, but I wrote my first business plan in sixth grade, and I knew I was going to be my own boss for a couple different reasons. One, I just really love to be creative. And I was like, doing different drawings in my room and always just had like a big dream to, like, funny enough, like get out of Lincoln. And now it's like the only place I kind of want to be these days. I mean, isn't that the true like story of like Lincoln? Like it's just a wonderful place to be when you figure out like really not a lot of other places can beat it. And so I didn't know what that meant for me in terms of like having my own business. So I went down the traditional path of like following what your parents did. And I thought I truly wanted to be a doctor and a physician following in my dad's footsteps. And I really struggled with biology and cutting open a frog in biolab freshman year. So I was like, that's off the table. And so I went down the path of psychology and understanding human behavior in college. And my, like, I would say the main thread that has helped me in every kind of transition in my life is being an athlete. And having grown up as a swimmer, swam through college and still swim for training and mental health wellness for the most part. But every now and then I'll get together with my college teammates and we'll swim in a meet for fun. But that's really where my interest in coaching and teams and understanding teams and how to work together started, was in the pool. And that's just carried over into the work that I do now, not only from the understanding of how to build a team, but also, a high performing team and what that takes. And so speed up to kind of this pivot now. So I went down the path of clinical psychology, and in the middle of my PhD program, I realized I wanted to work in management psychology. So I did a tailored dissertation where I compared athletic coaches to business executives as my like first marketing tool. So like the entrepreneur was like coming out in my PhD program. And that's when I started my first business. I really leveraged my dissertation as a marketing tool, and then coincided that with getting an MBA so I could just understand the language of business at the same time. And then have just navigated this path of executive coaching through that holistic, athletic lens. And that's truly been my unique differentiator my entire career. But that has really taken another level now that not only am I going through perimenopause, but about 4 or 5 years ago, I went down the path of becoming a hormone-informed health coach. And we'll be headed to Harvard at the end of March, actually, to do a medical training with the key leaders in the industry. So I'm excited for that. I mean, I'm all in when it's like when I'm talking about helping women during this phase. And so while I've pivoted towards like this focus around women navigating perimenopause, there's a couple of things that I think are critical, I think, for every woman to know is like there's just such a huge like education gap in this area where 90% of women will experience perimenopausal symptoms, mild to severe, but only 5% of women know actually what is going on with their bodies as in terms of the breadth of the types of symptoms you can have. And so 20% of women will experience debilitating, like take you out, you can't even show up to work types of symptoms. So it's every woman's journey is different. And that's, I think, the key thing I want to help more women understand is it's not just about like treating your hormones with medications, it's about the whole picture and optimizing your whole entire life and lifestyle choices just to be aware of how your body and your mind have evolved so that you can actually lead yourself with more compassion and understanding. And that's really the entry point I work with in my clients is around the mindset and the psychology and helping them map their potential perimenopausal symptoms back to their performance, what triggers might actually increase in probability when your hormones are fluctuating more unpredictably. And that is where I spend my time as a psychologist. So I don't get into the medical interventions of things. I don't get into like prescribing nutrition or athletic or weight. What's the word I'm looking for? Workouts. Hello.
Hello,
But
perimenopause.
I know, but it's more of like that, the psychology, the mindset, and like the cognitive capacity that I want to help my executive women build. Yeah.
Okay, so I was like, go back to swimming, because of
Yeah.
course this is a key part of like your whole evolvement is
Yeah.
you're a competitive swimmer. So how has that, and from swimming obviously competitively and then really stepping it up in college, how did that feed into, oh my gosh, I have to take this into like, how can I relate this to business
Yeah.
and athletes' mindset and building teams? Like, I love that piece about it. So
Yeah.
put that little
Yeah.
spin on it.
Yeah. So, my big why is really helping leaders become healthier so that they can create healthier organizations, so that they have healthier employees who go home to create healthier homes, so that we have healthier children who can grow up and not recover from their childhood. So that is absolutely my like grandiose big picture why, because in the clinical world, and I'll come back to your specific question, in the clinical world, I worked with children who had separated from their homes because of abuse from a primary caregiver. And at that point, I knew I needed to do, like, I wanted to work with more people. And that's in the workplace. We spend 80% of our time at work. So I try not to take for granted, like, just how innate being an athlete is to me. And so, and trying to remember, like, not everyone has like this understanding of health and performance, and so that is really what I try to help my clients understand is like when you are taking care of your body more, you are showing up as a better and healthier leader. And ultimately that impacts, and we know we have so much research that it impacts performance on the bottom line to the trillions of dollars in productivity. So there's great research that ties it back to actual bottom line performance. But like I would say it is when I first start working with a client, it's one of the first things I talk to them about is how do they take care of their body and their mind and really kind of understanding the level of importance for them. And if they're open to talking about improving, even just taking like, let's say, renewal breaks throughout their day. Like they don't have to become an athlete overnight, right? But how are they actually breaking up their day to renew their day so that we're not working in like marathons, but more in types of sprints?
Oh, I
And
love
so that's how
it.
I kind of correlate it is because then they actually have a much more productive day in terms of just those short breaks, like pausing to breathe and basic things like breath is our life source. And most of the times we work and don't even breathe. Like, so there's a lot of that. I don't know. Did I answer your question about the specific athletic tie?
100%. And I think a lot of people then apologize. A lot of women, I would say, apologize because they're always not, that's going to be the last thing on their list. They're like, I'm already exhausted. So why would I even work out? And
Yeah.
then, somebody, and maybe they know of you, maybe they don't know your background, but if they do, it's always like over apologizing. Well, I know that I don't. It's like, no, you don't have to do what I do,
Yeah.
but what does it look like to take care of you?
Yeah.
And these
Mm-hmm.
renewal breaks, that's
Mm-hmm.
like brilliant. I love that. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm taught. So, Amy, I feel like you were going to ask something really great here.
I loved how you mentioned the breath, that
Yeah.
life is, and so we don't take time to do that. Do you do things with breath work or encourage things of that sort with your?
Yeah. So one of the things that I do is I do an energy mapping session and where we really understand where their energy highs and lows are throughout the day and then tie it back to like where they feel like they were having the most impact. What kind of type of context are they in? Are they in a meeting or a one-on-one? Where they feel most productive and really help them organize their days around their energy. And I build in those renewal breaks intentionally tying it back to so one way to like really have a breakthrough around this breath work and these renewal breaks is that our bodies and our clocks are on this circadian rhythm of a rise and fall of anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes throughout the day and our sleep patterns follow the same highs and lows throughout the night, so it's really helpful to like take them back to like the two fundamental things that we need as human beings are breath and rest. And I mean, obviously, water too. Like we can go a long time without food, actually, but it's really like we need those three things of sleep, breath, and water, right? But it is really like helping them. Like one thing that I'll help them think about is like, what kind of breath work is going to be easiest for you to remember or help you be less distracted. And so I'll help them break it up. Like I'll do like 4 breaths in, 4 breaths out, 4 breaths in, hold, 4 breaths out, 4 breaths out, 4 times in 1 minute. It just takes 1 minute to actually reset our parasympathetic nervous system back to, away from the fight and flight state. And we kind of live there most of the time. Like if you think about it, like as women especially, we're constantly telling ourselves we're not good enough. We're
Right.
holding or we're not meeting the standard. And
Yeah.
that is basically an undercurrent of being in fight or flight, like constantly.
Wait, that's huge, Jennifer.
That's
Say that again.
Yeah.
Like,
So if you think about like just like and it all stems from our thoughts. And I know you guys are really into powerful thought process coaching. And so because we as women like and I would even say for like all of the resources we have out there, it's like kind of like a reminder of like, oh, I'm still not drinking enough water. Oh, I'm still not moving enough. And so we're never like this bar is constantly moving that we're never reaching, even if it's a bar that's like going to be good for us. And so we live in this state of never being enough, never being good enough, and we're feeling like we're doing enough. And so that's part of my work is like reminding them how much we are doing. But because we live in that state pretty consistently, we've been trained to do that as women growing up from a very young age. And so actually just doing 1 minute of breath work can actually de-escalate our parasympathetic nervous system to actually feeling like we are all of our energy comes back to the prefrontal cortex rather than living in the amygdala. And that way we're able to kind of calm down and then remember like we make better decisions when we're in that state. We are more productive, we're more calm and patient with ourselves. So the fact that we live in like fight or flight throughout the day without even realizing it is exhausting for women.
okay, I have a couple questions because, of
Yeah.
course, I'm curious. How often? It probably varies. I feel like you already know the answer to my question, but how often should someone? I would assume you're going to have to set a timer, right? And
Yeah.
because otherwise, you're just going to be like work. You're, blinders on. You're working, but setting a
Mhm.
timer and reminding yourself to breathe. And does it vary for each person?
Yeah. So I think it depends. It varies for each person and it also varies for the type of work you're doing. So sometimes I'll recommend women to just like pick a task and just do it for 9 minutes and just 9 minutes, just one task and do nothing else for 9 minutes. And it's amazing how hard that
I think I
can
might
be
fail.
and to like really tune out all the distractions. But like, and have it be like one of those, like depending on where your energy peak is throughout the day is where I suggest that they fill this in. For me and for many women, it's earlier in the day, but some women it's later in the day and in the evening, just depending on how they have like set their system. And so just doing those tasks for 9 minutes and then actually doing a minute of breath work And if it's like more longer, if it's more like collaborative work or where it requires more people, I think every 60 to 90 minutes is where I would recommend you have at least a minute. But I recommend is, 4 minutes is a really nice renewal break.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. This is good even for those of us that work from home, right? I'm thinking
Yeah.
of like when I practiced as a PT, as a physical therapist, that would have been, I could have like absolutely gauged that. But at home, I feel like you're on, you're off, you're on, off. Okay, now I'll go
Yeah.
do a quick workout. Oh, now I'm on.
Yes.
This would be
Yes.
huge.
Yes.
Do you think, totally different subject, but not really, not good enough, not good enough. We've been in grades since we were little. That is definitely something, probably my biggest hurdle for sure,
Yeah.
is what's wrong with me? What didn't I do right? Why didn't it work for me? Do you think social media has made it worse as a
Oh
psychologist?
my gosh. Yes. It is awful. Like, I wish I could go back to the time in our lives where it didn't exist. And what's interesting is when you even ask children who have a phone, they will respond. There's really great research on this too. Kids will say, I wish I never had a phone. Even kids are having this insight and they can't like stop. They can't. So it's amazing because it advances our speed and into which we can be productive, but it's totally ruined our connection to ourselves and to other people. Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
I
So
can
along with that not enoughness, do you think, going back to what you mentioned, we get so used to feeling like you don't know what you don't know. And so
Yeah.
you don't realize you think you're supposed to. Let's just say perimenopausal things. You said what, 10% of the people even realize that, are aware of it, I guess,
Yeah. Yeah.
because we don't talk about it. It almost seems like it's uncomfortable, or I don't know, use the word taboo, whatever. But then, and we just are used to feeling tired and exhausted and
Yeah. Yeah.
all of that, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like, I equate it, like, I can't remember, Molly, if I told you this last time we met, but, I didn't realize how awful I felt until I started feeling better. And because we tend to be there for other people more than we are for ourselves. So we could be a frog in a slowly rising pot of boiling water, right? And all of a sudden we're fried and don't even know it. And that's exactly what happens with women actually for a third of our lives. I mean, we have
not bananas.
yeah, a third of our lives we're in this extreme hormonal fluctuation between puberty and perimenopause. And then if you are lucky enough to be a mom, then you are like have those peaks and valleys when you have your child. And so those three P's actually remodel our brains in a way that have a long-term impact on our well-being in later life. But I would say to come back to kind of your question around how do we like realize because we have lived our lives in these like highs and lows of hormones, right? How do we realize when like perimenopause is different potentially, right? And that's where we need more information. That's why I am so passionate about what I do to just bring the conversation to more leaders and managers so that they can then extend the information beyond their transformation because everything rises and falls, as you know, John Maxwell with leadership, right? And
Right.
so that's where I'd like to start. But otherwise, it is hard to talk about it at work. That's something I help my clients think about, think through, and how comfortable they are to do it, and how to set up their day and their schedule and their vision for their next level of life to meet them where they are so that they can feel like they are worthy of feeling like they're enough because we are. We are.
Oh, goodness. Yes. Well, and I feel like, Jennifer, and correct me if this is wrong. So, coming out, I feel like when we met, you were definitely working with high level CEOs, mostly men. Like, how have you pivoted away from that? Do you still see men, or have you really going through this journey yourself? And I think people would also love to hear that too, right? Like, authenticity is just, we love people that are authentic. Like, what led you down this road of like, I'm going to pivot from working with men, really focus on women? Because this is what happened to me. And
Yeah.
I remember talking about like, we're expected to make these high level decisions and we're in perimenopause. But if you
Yeah.
listen to all the research out there, it's like a few articles, not a few, but a few thousand on menopause, but there's a million on postpartum and on pregnancy, but
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
on menopause. And people usually tend to run away and be like, oh Lord, I don't want to talk about that. I actually hated the word because I thought it meant you were old. I mean,
Yeah.
truthfully, it's like, I will never go through menopause because that's just another word for meaning I'm officially old and, just chuck me away. And so I just refuse to use that word, which is so silly.
Yeah. But I mean, to like again, so I'm going to just point out to you like this cycle we can get into women that you so beautifully demonstrated is like we have these thoughts and then we beat ourselves up for these thoughts,
Uh-huh.
right? And it's like it's okay to have these thoughts. It's okay to not want to be old. It's okay to not want to age. Like there's nothing wrong with not wanting those things to happen, right? And I think like that's where I want to extend compassion to every woman, to you as you're saying that, right? Like it's okay to have those thoughts. There's nothing wrong with it, right?
Hey,
And because we've lived in a world that tells us we can't. And so that's the first piece. I would love to just like have compassion with ourselves to that like we don't want this beautiful thing on this planet to end. And that's what that means, right? And so when I started off in the work I did, I would say the majority of my clients are men and still actually are men because at the leadership level, there are more men than women in those roles. But the reason I became more interested in this path is twofold, and it kind of coincides with my story of how I ended up down this path. And I can't remember if I shared this with you, Molly, when we were together or not, but it comes back to my faith and something that I discovered from an ecclesiastical letter from Pope John Paul II that I read during a time where I realized, okay, I'm headed into perimenopause, and what that means is like me having my own children is slipping through my fingers, right? And so working through that, I'll share a little bit more about that in a second here, but I would say when men hear this, like, I guess additional skill set I have with women, they want to know more. Like they are like actually so many men are such great allies and they don't want it to be taboo. They want to understand how to talk to their female
yes.
employees. And actually many of them are like, wow, this helps me understand my wife more. So what's amazing is we live in this world together. And so it isn't about just supporting women in this journey. It's actually supporting men in understanding how they can love the women in their lives more. And then also it opens up a door for women to be more communicative to them. So it's a great journey for both my male and female clients when I share with them that I'm working on this.
This is
So
so true.
yeah, yeah. And so, and for me, it's not about like, it's about like elevating the right leader for the right role. It's not necessarily about elevating more women just to elevate more women, right? Like you have to be right for the role. But we have a gap in the pipeline because women opt, like 33% of women opt out of the workforce at mid-career because of this like they're unaware, these symptoms that we're having in perimenopause that they're unaware of like what it is. And so just to help them, like just the increase in awareness of this is what it is. This is perimenopause. It's a normal experience 100% of women will go through. And that almost diminishes the shame immediately. Like there's nothing wrong with me. And like without any other changes of like, oh my gosh, this is what this is. And so then that just totally empowers them more. So the awareness is huge. So the reason I really feel like it absolutely is my calling in life right now, it's my, like, I do believe it is my purpose from God to be going down this path and taking a loss and turning it into a why. Because had I not like realized like really gone down this like faith journey. I've always been very faith based and had a relationship with God, but I would say even through this like loss of not having my own children has increased and improved my relationship with him because it's like he like presented this letter from Pope John Paul II from like 1985 to me. And it was actually like my uncle had given me this like the actual book when I was in like high school. And so I have like the original letter from the Pope. It's called The Genius of Women. And it's all about our dignity, how we are set apart as women, and how we are unique in our feminine genius. And while not all women are going to be called to be mothers in body, we are all called to be mothers in soul. And that to me has been like, so now I feel like I'm just being a mother to more women, not only to like the younger version of myself, but also to support women through this. Like, it is a loss if you think about it. And I know you both are moms, like to realize like our babies' first homes are kind of are going away, and it's a loss of that like reproductive unique differentiator as a woman to move into perimenopause, into menopause. While I believe it is one of the most powerful phases of our lives for a lot of other reasons, in terms of crystallized intelligence, our years of experience that you can't like give to a 20-year-old, all of
Yeah.
these things that are
Yes.
amazing. And so that is like, that's where I took this, like, this is my baby. This is what I'm birthing into the world. And so that is why I'm really passionate about it. Yeah.
Which I think, and I know Ed Milet always says that, right? You're most powerfully positioned to help the person you once were. So I
Yeah.
love that you're like, how incredible that your uncle gave you this book at such a young age. It's sitting right here, but until you have the eyes to see it, you're like,
Yes.
oh my gosh, here it is. And
Yeah.
okay, for women, Jennifer, that are like, what the heck, or men, because we have men and women that listen to this podcast, is perimenopause symptoms. I know you're not
Yeah.
a hormone doc, you're not here for that, but you help women. Obviously, you're going to be able to identify some key things. Are there like five key things that
Yep.
indicate you're in perimenopause?
Yeah. So 80% of women will experience what is like cognitive fatigue, which otherwise known as brain fog, in perimenopause. And it's interesting, like it's kind of funny, like going back to Amy, what you said, like our whole lives are we having cognitive fatigue, right, as women. But what happens is it actually creeps into situations where other in situations and contexts where otherwise you would have been normally confident, and like you're grasping for words, or and you feel like just like a total drop in your energy, and you're not quick on your feet anymore like you used to be. So there's lots of ways that you can actually describe that. 80% of women will experience that, and that actually obviously has a huge impact on our performance daily and relationships in general. So that is like one to not dismiss as like, oh, there's nothing I can do about that. There's lots of things that you can do about it, from lifestyle, nutrition, movement, renewal breaks, structuring your day the right way. How are you optimizing your sleep? And then, of course, if you go down the medical intervention path, hormone replacement therapy is really powerful. It has been for me. But every individual woman's needs are different. So that would be the one that's most obvious. But, it's interesting. One that and what I can do is I can share a resource with you too, in terms of the most common
Yeah.
perimenopausal symptoms that you want to be like thinking about as it relates to your leadership role. So it's a little bit different than just the list of like there's over 50 plus symptoms that we can experience in perimenopause. And so the other one that I think people the most common but yet most unknown symptom is arthralgia. And for those of you who don't know what arthralgia is, it's basically intense muscle and joint pain because of the loss of estrogen in our receptors all over our bodies. It's commonly misdiagnosed for arthritis and then ultimately mistreated. And then we're on these medications that are really like, I mean, really helpful for arthritis, but also super like invasive to our bodies, right? They're intense drugs if you have arthritis. But arthralgia could be treated actually with just estrogen. And so, 80% of women will experience arthralgia.
Isn't
Oh
that,
my,
I mean, I just was having conversations with some of my girlfriends and they were like, oh my, I mean, the aches and they're like,
Yeah.
and the doctor said there's nothing, I've done an MRI, there's nothing, whatever they've done. And I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
well, I'm thinking about that weird wonky distal ulnar pain that I was having, like,
Well, I was
oh,
thinking of
out
you
of the blue.
too.
I was
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, that
Yeah.
is, or just honestly, from being an athlete, I go back and just think, oh, it's just because I train a lot, or I do this a lot, or I was swimming a lot. Oh, that's why my right shoulder hurts, or I started playing tennis, just
Yeah.
all those things. But that is so interesting. And I think it's even more interesting that your dad's a rheumatologist. So, like,
Yes.
like, wow, wow, and wow. No, we're not
Yeah.
here to interview the other Dr. Churchill, but that's so fascinating. And I think we're
Yeah.
so quick to dismiss it of like,
Yeah.
or Amy will say, oh, I just got new shoes. That's probably why.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? We're just so quick to dismiss it. Not that you want to go down that road of like, there must be something wrong with me.
Yeah. Well, and my dad and I have had some awesome conversations about it because I
Yeah.
mean, the majority of his patients are women, and they
Mm.
actually women, because there's not a lot of research done on women in a lot of different, medical arenas, but we weren't required to be part of research studies until 1993.
What?
I
Yeah.
didn't
Are you
know that.
serious? Oh
Yeah.
my
Wow.
Lord. That's when I graduated from
Wow.
college. That wasn't that
Yeah.
long ago.
Yeah. So many of the medications are still that we use, and also children have been only tested on white male adults. So
Wow.
because we're harder to study because of our hormone, they're like, oh, well, we'll just not study women, but we'll like give them that. So there's a lot of room. It's like a $13 trillion healthcare gap actually
Mhm.
between men and women's health that obviously needs to be narrowed. But
Wow.
yeah, so there's a lot of discrepancies with that, which is again why I'm so passionate about it, because it could be really, there's so many more solutions that could be developed for women to help us in a more correct way. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Well, and we can attach in the show notes too, like how you said, there are over 50 symptoms, but
Yeah.
boy, I can give you some things like already I'm thinking of, I have a lot of high performing friends that are CEOs, CFOs, CTOs of big companies, and they're 40s to 50s. And although perimenopause can start much earlier, right?
Yeah. As early as
There's
35. Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, it can definitely affect you. And I always say, like, take away my Amazon account after 9 p.m. I should not legally be allowed to order anything because stuff comes and I'm like, I
Right.
don't remember ordering that. It's just because I'm so tired. I'm like tired shopping. What the heck?
Yeah.
What supplement did I think I needed last night at 9:11 p.m. when I really should be asleep? More sleep in this fabulous part of my age. But the other thing, Jennifer, that I love what you do is you're incredible, kind of as we wrap up here on with community and building community. You've really had an aha there. And I think this is really a neat thing. Kind of walk us through or tell us a little bit about what you're working on there and what you love.
Yeah. Yes. Well, so I created and launched a group coaching. It's a hybrid group coaching program. So there's a one-on-one component with me that I will never be able to get rid of as a psychologist.
Yeah.
So I do a deep dive, kind of a deep dive acceleration assessment session with everyone who comes into my community. And it's called the Feminine Genius Method. And so it's, rooted in that, that in my why. And it is a 12 to 15 week, depending on, which level you start at, but group coaching, access to me one-on-one in Voxer. But then we do like mini master classes every other week where we dive into a specific area around the impact of perimenopause and or midlife. Like, so I'd also do trainings around how to navigate caring for parents who are older, as well as like what is your like vision and mission for your life now, and then like all of the leadership stuff and communication, but also then tying perimenopausal symptoms to performance and how to navigate that physically, emotionally, and mentally. So it is a full like hybrid group coaching program, and built a community there and launched the next cohort actually just this week.
How
Yeah.
exciting. I love
Awesome.
that. And who
Yeah.
would be your caviar client? Like, who's your ideal?
Well, it would be a woman in a management or leadership role and or a entrepreneur at this time in mid-career. It is really meant to serve any woman who is like wanting to stay engaged in their career, in their professional path, but might be struggling to understand how to do that from a very healthy, holistic way, and also just to feel the support like they're not alone. So it is really, it's pretty broad, but it would be for women mid-career in an organization or a business owner as well. So yeah, so I would say that would be my caviar. I love that caviar client.
Thank you. I know I love talking in that language because it is. And I can think of like immediately, and this is the greatest thing is share this podcast with women and men, like you said, that are in that high level so they can understand how to help their female
Yeah.
cohort. But definitely share this episode because we know that this is like the birth of your baby is your child. And so it's like we want to help more women. And that's what we're all about, especially high achieving women that are thinking that there is something wrong with them. So
Mhm.
we
How would they
always,
go about? Do you have a website
yeah,
or something that?
Yeah, so the easiest way would just be to go to jenniferchurchill.com. And I have links under my women's leadership tab on that page to actually two different offerings, to the Feminine Genius program, but also to just a one-on-one. It's called an energy mapping session. It's something I'm doing really just to help more women understand like what might be going on with them. And it's like at a very reasonable entry price point because just want to get more people, more women aware.
You're all
And
signing
so,
up for that. I
so
mean, I'm like,
there's,
I need that.
yeah, so it's, 45-minute, really structured, strategic, yet, compassionate session. And then at that point too, we can explore if like the program, the, Feminine Genius program is right for you, or even more customized one-on-one work. I still do one-on-one work as well with all my clients. So just my website, and there's links there. And also just email me if you have a question. It's just Jennifer@jenniferchurchill.com.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
easy. That's super easy. And
Yeah.
we always end, Amy, do you want to end with our big question of the
We
of the
always say our podcast is called Meet Me in the Penthouse.
Yeah.
It so happens that I'm in real estate as well. But when I say Meet Me in the Penthouse, what does Meet Me in the Penthouse mean to you?
Oh, well, first of all, I love this name of this podcast. It's so like powerful. What it means, I would say to me, is that we're all like going up together,
Mm.
And so like and if you think about, it's interesting, like when you think about going to a penthouse, it's usually not walking a ton of stairs, right? You're in an elevator. And typically when we hit more floors, some people in our life have to get off so that other ones can get on. And as we go higher, we realize who we really like are meant to be on that elevator with us. And it's being in that room with more supportive women, more like truly championing for each other, right? And to achieve that level of like elevation. It just feels like, elevated in like all of the most powerful, supportive ways. It probably is. I'm also probably very biased because I know Molly, and I'm like, it just feels like I want to be on this elevator with her going up. So it feels so powerful and supportive, is how it feels and sounds to me.
Well,
Yeah.
we are locking arms with you because you are a powerful woman. And I tell you, with the most beautiful swim stroke ever. It's just lovely. And so, yes, we're all in the penthouse together. I love that vision. It gave me goosebumps. And
Yeah.
I'm just so excited. We're so excited to help you all go to the penthouse and go find Dr. Jennifer Churchill. Email her, do this incredible opportunity to have your energy, to have everything mapped out. That sounds incredible. I need to do that. I will do this. And thank
Awesome.
you so much. Thank you so much for your time. We absolutely
Yes.
love and adore you. And this is going to
Oh.
be powerful for so many people.
Oh my gosh, you're welcome. Thank you both. This is such an awesome opportunity. You guys are just shining stars for us. So keep shining your star.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for tuning in today for Meet Me in the Penthouse with sisters Amy and Molly. Please rate and review. We love those 5-star ratings and would love to have you go to our website at sistersnextdoor.com.